Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen, talking about what additions we could see on the roadmap for the end of 2020, what's likely or possible, and what Cloud Imperium have been working on for potentially the Q4 2020 patch. Please temper your expectations though, to a degree at least. There have been some delays with Cloud Imperium working from home, and what we talk about here might not make it into Q4's patch. It might become a little bit later. It might not be on the roadmap for a reason. It's not a confirmation that it's going to basically be in this Q4 patch. Some of this should be in the Q4 patch though, and at the very least Cloud Imperium have been working towards some of it. The Q4 2020 patch will either be numbered 3.12, so 3.12, or 4.0, based on whether the Pyro system is completed or at least ready for its initial implementation. Pyro was originally planned to be a targeted release for 2020, but this was before the lockdown and Cloud Imperium working from home. Pyro contains 6 planets, 6 moons, an asteroid cluster, a major landing zone being Ruin Station, and a very angry flare star that might cause damage to some ships. Though these planetary bodies are much more simple than the Stanton's planetary bodies, because they can just be like effectively everything in there's a moon, because it's all like single biomes or simple biomes, no major landing zones on the planets, and the tech for the procedural planets is also very refined now, so it is something that could make it in for the end of the year, but it's looking more optimistic to think that. The system needs to be connected to Stanton with a jump point. We should see both Pyro and a jump point at the same time, but a delay is very possible, and it's much more likely now to be in Q1 2021 in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see. And that 4.0 moniker, that 4.0 name for a patch will be when Pyro is in-game. Salvage, probably my most wanted mechanic in-game at the moment. Xylo had appeared on the Yacht Club more recently and said that they would be giving some updates on Salvage in the next Calling All Devs. Salvage has been repeatedly delayed on the roadmap, being entirely removed at the end of December 2019 due to a focus on some major features for Squadron 42, and it's one of the most wanted and hyped gameplay loops, I believe. Last we heard, the first implementation of Salvage will be the stripping of hulls of valuable materials and might be very similar to mining. There's also the expectation for the ability to remove ships' items in various states of damage and then sell them too as well, literally cutting them off, removing them, picking them up, and this is compounded by Cloud Imperium's current work on adding a cutting attachment to the multi-tool for 3.11, that Q3 patch. This would allow you to, cut a system or weapon free and then take it back with you to your ship. The Drake Vulture light salvage vehicle was also planned to come when salvage was added, so if we see salvage in Q4, then expect it to be functional for at least 2 ships, the Reclaimer and the Vulture, and the Vulture will come out with it. You see what I mean? Also, expect the ability to do some salvaging by hand, as previously mentioned. Realistically, this would also need physicalized components, though, to be able to actually take salvage by hand, to actually cut it away, to actually take the components out. And we know that CIG have been working on this. The actual individual components on ships are going to be individually damageable, breakable, and disconnectable from a ship's circuit. Ship health won't be artificial. It won't cause the ship to just explode when it's taken a certain amount of damage. You will literally have individual components on board which can individually take damage. If a projectile passes through a ship but doesn't hit anything vital, then it's passed through the ship. It's obviously damaged the hull. It's obviously got a big hole in your ship, but you're not going to take any major damage. And that damage eventually, if you get hit in certain components, will cause your ship to be disabled, crippled, or at least not optimal. What individual projectiles do what, penetrate what, and how shields and armor and that sort of stuff react to the fire that's incoming are going to be defined by the physical damage system that they're building as well. Damaged components will be able to be repaired or replaced, and there's a subcomponent system as well that could come in at the same time, allowing for further modification to each individual component and actually seeing the maneuvering of items out of a sort of component to try and fix it potentially. We actually have subcomponents sort of in 3.9.0 currently with the mining consumables. They're effectively subcomponents, but you'll see lots more consumables and subcomponents in the future that will allow you to have more power generation in your power plant, but it might generate more heat because of that. Something that we've seen from Cloud Imperium's demos on Star Citizen, but not yet implemented, is physical inventory, putting your items in lockers, grabbing suits out, weapons and gear, putting them in the armories, grabbing them out when you need them. So you're not going to be able to carry everything with you constantly and just be able to swap into it freely. You're going to have to actually swap into gear that is proximate to you, and you're not going to have infinite carrying space. You're only going to have what you're going to be able to carry on you, which is going to be a realistic amount. So you're going to have to store things in your habs and in your ships and that sort of stuff. One of the major elements to make this all possible is the iCache, the item cache, which will store and manage all items in the game world, ownership, locations, ships, all that sort of stuff. This should give a much more stable backend for a lot of services as well. The iCache is essential for some networking features as well. Full persistence, for example, will make full use of this. And to be clear, full persistence refers to objects having their locational data saved in the verse and then being able to be returned to and them still be there. So it just saves where they are and what they're doing, their current state, and they can sort of stand by them like when it standbys an area in server-side object container streaming, but when you come back, that exact item in the exact condition you left it in is still there. And this will then be true of like things like asteroids and points of interest. You'll see player derelicts and things like that much more often in the game because they won't need to be cleared up in the same way. And something that I hope comes around the same time is the ability to save locational data, save locations on the map, be able to transfer that data to other players and be able to return to a location that you've previously saved. So then you can have much more in the way of exploration in game. Crusader and Orison have been moved off the roadmap with the suggestion that it'll be back in Q4 2020's patch. Crusader is the first gas giant that we have in game. It should have points of interest and gameplay for the area as well. Orison is its major landing zone, and that should be coming with the mission giver duo Gibbs and Batista from Crusader Security. How much we're exactly getting is anyone's guess though. So the first implementation, it might just be the first implementation and they're going to keep on evolving and adding more and more. The landing zone is a floating city and there should be a giant sort of capital shipyard or shipyards nearby too. They've talked about giant space whales that live in the gas clouds as well, but they're probably significantly further down the line. A location that is seeing lots of work as well for the Stanton system is the Aaron Halo. This is a massive asteroid field that splits the Stanton system in two, and you have to use the gateways that are owned by Crusader. Maybe there's going to be some sort of tax involved in moving between them, a toll fee, but you'll have to use those to travel from the outer to the inner system. There's going to be loads of asteroids there for mining as well. So what ships could we see in Q4 2020? The Hercules Star on it is certainly one of them. We know that they've been whiteboxing that. The Constellation Taurus is another one that I would expect to see. The Hull C, if they've got the rest of the tech done for the Hull C, it's ready for Squadron 42's needs, but they were working on a couple of bits for the Hull C, some of which are systems like docking, which are already planned in earlier patches. So there is the potential for another ship or vehicle or two here as well, but it will be whatever Cloud Imperium has been working on. This could be Titan suits, this could be the Origin rover, the G12A, this could be a Nova tank, this could be a Tumble Ranger, this could be Genesis Starliner, and the Ares. They all actually seem quite possible for me. Also, the docking allows for much larger ships potentially to be put in the game as well, so we could even see larger ships. Certainly expect some things, but I'm not exactly sure what. We might see some influences from Theatres of War and Squadron 42's needs as well, as these sort of priorities are going to have a big effect on what is in Q4 2020. Cloud Imperium are building a finance app that allows you to transfer, at least in its first implementation, money between players. Eventually this will be items, ships, cargo, you'll be able to trade all that stuff as well. But wallet-to-wallet transactions are a win. It should also list all of your current assets and liabilities. This is something that I hope makes Q4. At the start of 2020, the first dynamic mission and economy features were moved off, including that finance app off the roadmap. I would expect them to try to want to get these features, the start of them in Q4, or at least by the end of 2020. This is the sort of like the start of the Quanta universe simulation that Tony Zerovic demoed at CitizenCon 2019 and has sort of like content generated based on what is going on in the universe. And that can be changing prices, this can be the missions, this can be NPCs and they're sort of like where they are, what they're doing at the time, where pirates interdict you, where security interdicts you. All this sort of stuff is going to be affected by this dynamic system. I'm expecting the start of it for Q4 2020 or for when Pyro comes out. The NPC scheduler and shield tech updates. These were very recently removed off the roadmap, but could very well appear back for Q4. The NPC scheduler tracks and manages NPCs as well as having a spawn locker for them, a room for them to spawn and despawn in each landing zone or appropriate area. It will eventually physicalize NPCs based on quanta simulation data, but it's quite important for that sort of dynamic content. The signed distance field or new shield tech is supposed to have functional, good-looking shields for ships that hug them more closely and will deform to the hulls. This would also solve problems with shield hole issues as well. It's something that we've wanted for ages in game, and hopefully that will make Q4. All areas of AI should be seeing updates. That's social AI, ship AI, FPS AI, the long-awaited bartender could well be here, sort of like representing a gold standard for social AI. Ship AI should be significantly more dialed in too. They've been working on having reinforcements that are able to turn up from space to land, so they're able to attack you with ships and then get out of their ships and run at you and things like that. So you can have reinforcements as part of missions. You can have lots of more different types of mission, a much more sort of like dynamic system for those NPCs. What exact state AI will be in for the end of 2020 remains to be seen, but it should be certainly a lot better than is currently. Some other mentions as well for potential content. There is some planned large-scale pirate type incursions that will make its way into the game. This is sort of like connected to the pyro system, at least in lore, with like raiding forces attacking the Stanton system with large fleets, and expect to see larger sort of like battles, sort of where Idris might be involved, more open types of missions that lawful players might be able to join, and lots of stuff like that, big prison breaks, lots of larger scale missions. There is a lot of general networking and back-end service improvements as well. Cloud Imperium are getting their back-end services, databases and code more robust, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done to the netcode, and they're trying to get it in the better state for when they release server meshing, potentially later in 2021. Vulkan integration and their Gen 12 renderer. Cloud Imperium have been working on this Gen 12 renderer for a long time, and this is going to see at first Vulkan integration with DirectX 11 support as well, and then they're going to move entirely over to Vulkan. But you should see Star Citizen, hopefully for the end of Q4, having a much better performance on people's systems, being much more scalable, scaling up to many more CPU cores, and generally just looking and feeling better. That sort of stuff, you should get a lot more performance. It's a lot more hardware neutral Vulkan as well. There's actually a few other features that have been moved off the roadmap that I want to talk about briefly that might make the end of the year. Bounty hunting improvements. So there's new armors and new bounty hunting improvements that are supposed to be coming at some point. They're obviously doing more work to the flight model, making thruster efficiency on planets more aggressive so that they're going to be weaker in atmosphere, and wind and gravity and stuff will affect them more. So I expect a lot more tweaks and stuff to the flight model and to the combat model, trying to get combat feeling as good as it can, whether that be on ground or in a ship. AI buddies and missions and quantum linking for AI ships are something that they might be working towards as well. So this would have a wingman or an AI ship that you had to protect from area to area to area. So you could do a proper escort mission, or you might find someone living in a cave and have to escort them out, stuff like that. So you could have people on the ground that you have to work with, or you could have ships that actually accompany you and travel with you. They are planning to have kiosks for repair, rearm and refueling services rather than just your Moby Glass. There's third-party healing planned, so the ability to heal a friend or an NPC with something like a Medipen when they're down, you can get them back up is the idea here. So you're going to have people getting knocked over, bleeding out and stuff like that. They've been working on security and permission systems to designate areas, doors and systems that have particular players or NPCs being able to operate them based on what permissions have been set for them. Eventually this will allow you to have like a ship's captain give very specific roles to crewmen, just saying, well, an engineer can get into these sections of the ship and use these systems. Multi-crew improvements with updates to turrets, MFDs, etc. are also planned. Expect multi-crew to encompass more and more little minor updates as well, giving lots more types of gameplay. Obviously when we have like repair, when we need to move out components, there's going to be that element of multi-crew. You're going to need engineers and stuff like that. There's obviously space stations that you have in game at the moment, but they've been working on unoccupied versions of those stations that are either automated rest stops or are ones that are like abandoned. Something that Cloud Imperium will be discussing soon, but we might be getting by the end of the year, is deeper customization for ships. Now, we are going to be able to paint and customize ships to some level, and I'm hoping that we find out more about that soon and see lots more of it throughout the year. Something else that's currently going on is theatres of war testing. I'm expecting that something more public-facing might be available by the end of 2020, though I would expect there to be PTUs and tests between now and then, lots of them. Land claim gameplay is more of a long shot, but that's also a possibility. The ability to sort of like place a land claim and exploit the resources there rather than build bases. Base building will probably come much later after like server meshing. We should see a load of new missions, laws, gameplay tweaks, and more as well. And that's sort sort of it for what I had on my list. It's not exhaustive, and I would expect to see some features that I didn't mention in the Q4 patch. But will it be called 4.0? Will it be 3.12? What do you think will actually make the patch? Do you think there's anything I've missed that will make it? What do you want to see? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a giveaway. For May, we're giving away a Star Citizen game package with Arrow Light Fighter. All you've got to do to be in for a chance of winning that is comment on any of my videos made during the month. More details below. I am a shill for a couple of companies, NordVPN and NordPass. If you are looking for a VPN or a password management system, I recommend you check them out. They've got many benefits over free services, and as I'm pretty security conscious, I love those kind of services. Also, there's Shadow. If you are thinking about getting a new gaming rig or upgrading your gaming PC for Star Citizen or whatever, then consider Shadow instead. It is an internet cloud-based subscription service like Stadia, like GeForce Now, but this one gives you access to a full Windows 10 environment which is fully customizable, and that is significantly better in my opinion, allowing you to do a lot more with it. Check out the links below for them or use the code BoredGamer for discount. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, there is Patreon, there's the YouTube join member button down below. That really helps. This is a community supported channel and I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the support that I get. If you want to share these videos, if you want to comment, give feedback, whatever, that is also hugely appreciated. Thanks very much for watching, guys. You take care, and I'll see you in the verse.